This is Jonathan Lane from Fan Film Factor, and today I am here with the very British Greg Locke. Just wait till you
Hello.
hear him. Yes, there you go. I just love you.
Hello there.
Well, that's the thing about Brits. You sound so intelligent, and it's just the accent, you know.
Yeah, we're putting it on. It's don't be convinced by the voice.
You know, and in movies, you know, that's the thing is the Brits are either, you know, seen as super intelligent or super evil or both.
Yeah. There's no in between.
There's no in between. So, but anyway, so who is Greg Locke? Greg is the showrunner behind what was crowdfunded in 2014 as Star Trek Ambush, and completed very recently and put onto YouTube in 2022, only 8 years later.
8 years, yeah.
It's a blink of the cosmic eye, you know, that's, but anyway, released as Ambush, a Star Trek fan production. And we're here to ask Greg, amongst other questions, what the heck took you so long? But before that, let's just welcome you here to Fan Film Factor. So thank you for
happy to be here. Thank you.
And let's find out a little bit who Greg is. Obviously, you are a Brit. You are in the United Kingdom. Where in the UK are you?
I'm in Dorset, which is on the south coast, so about 100 miles west of London, south coast.
Okay, is that like close to where Doctor Who is filmed in Cardiff?
We actually, yes, because we actually shot on some Doctor Who location, on a Doctor Who location in Ambush.
Oh, you did?
So we're not. Oh, actually, no. We're kind of in between London and Cardiff, I'd say. But we shot where a Tom Baker episode was shot. Gibson to Wallace. LZ is clear.
So that was the scene that was filmed on a Doctor Who location?
Yeah, I believe one of the Tom Baker episodes. Everything shot on the beaches and the sea and the cliffs and the rocks. I believe it was used as Skaro in a Tom Baker Doctor Who episode.
Oh,
So little place called Windspit on the Dorset coast.
Oh, that is so cool.
I didn't actually realize that at the time, but yeah, I did later find that out.
Oh, okay. Well, all righty. So anyway, so we now know where you live. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you do for a living.
Well, for a living, I work as a paramedic, which is completely unrelated to film, I guess. Before that, though, I did a degree in film production. There was a time in my life where all my life choices were being geared towards a hopeful career in the industry. It didn't pan out that way. I sort of ended up wanting a steady income instead of a job by job basis, and went to London to train as a paramedic. And that was over 10 years ago, and that's what I've been doing since. I'm still in regular contact with lots of my friends who did go into the film industry, and they're doing various jobs, bits and pieces. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell. A working paramedic, but always with a keen interest in film.
Okay, well, that's cool. So was it 2014 that you decided to make Ambush, or was that a few years earlier?
Well, I've always been into Star Trek. I'd always, when I was sort of a lot younger, always had these fantasies of, you know, my ideal Star Trek film, my ideal Star Trek crew. And it was always something I always felt was in the pipe. It was a pipe dream. It was never going to happen. You know, I could barely sort of film stuff with a video camera. And it was probably around 2013 when me and my friend Tom, who was quite a partner in this, we were just having a chat about how far technology has come and how accessible filmmaking technology has been compared to what we had, say, 10 years ago. And we kind of all of a sudden realized, you know what, it's actually potentially is possible to do something in the realms of sci-fi and particularly Star Trek. And that's kind of what piqued my interest again in, well, actually, maybe this could be something that could be done. I'd also, as well, with the films I had been making beforehand, it would always be relied on my friends, getting everyone together. And in this day and age, it was becoming harder and harder to actually get people in the same place at the same time. And we're all kind of going off on different paths. And I kind of realized that if I could only make one more film, I would love that to be a Star Trek film. And that's kind of why we decided to, pull our resources, put all the stops out, and work on Ambush.
So how many people were in your initial cadre, your initial group of folks you got together to make this?
It was really just me and my friend Tom were kind of the main people. As thankfully all of our friends, we're all used to acting in each other's films. So that's kind of where lots of the actors sort of came from. Throughout the course of our film degrees, we'd met people on acting courses, and so we had friends in that realm we could go on. So like I said, it just started off with two of us, but slowly, we got various people involved, mainly family members. My mum was a massive influence on getting the costumes done. It did become a bit of a family affair. The locations we were able to build sets in was owned by my father, one of his business premises we were able to use. So two of us at core, but we slowly just started out, no more than about 10, 15 of us, I guess, in total, but it was a very small group and very family orientated.
Well, you know what? That's one of the great things about fan films is that, you can always just drag in whoever you need.
Yep. Pull in all those favors.
So it's now 2013, 2014. You decide you're going to crowdfund it. You crowdfunded on Kickstarter, and I believe you raised something like I think £4,600 at the time.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't speak British, pounds to dollars, that was about $6,500 at the time. I did this calculation before this, which is about, I guess, maybe $7,200 right now in today's 2020.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, so but that's okay. You just stay in the pound sterling when you got our dollars right here. So how did you determine that was how much you needed to raise?
Well, we actually only initially put our funding goal at £1,000. We'd been used to doing films with no budget, if anything at all. And if I'm honest, £1,000 was nowhere near enough. I wasn't even too convinced that we would actually get anything. This was the first time I'd ever kind of looked into Kickstarter. I was aware of it, never looked into it before. And I think with Kickstarter, again, because it was the big thing where if you don't get your funding goal, you get nothing at all.
Yeah,
exactly. And so I think it was a kind of something like, well, it would be nice to have a little bit of cash to do something. Maybe we could just build a set, was kind of, it'd be nice to have that. So we pretty much just set the goal as low as we reasonably thought. And then it just kind of, surpassed that and sort of went beyond what any of us were thinking of. So and then we had that, that's why we were able to sort of work with it and go from there.
Okay, well, cool. And so you had this money to work with. You built. Now, in terms of sets, I think you had your shuttlecraft set.
Yep.
And then was there? I guess there was the other interior.
The Romulan base.
The Romulan base.
So that was the first set we built. The problem is with the premises that we had, we could only build one set at a time. So we built the Romulan set, which to begin with did take a little bit longer than anticipated. And once we shot that, we then had to strike it, destroy it, make room, and then and build the shuttlecraft in the same space. So that was just
striking sets. I have a fun story. Well, I don't know. It's fun and it's tragic all at the same time. The Deep Space Nine sets, they actually took up two different sound stages at Paramount, and I just happened to be going to Paramount because I was doing consulting for them the day after they wrapped filming
Right.
on Deep Space Nine, and I had seen one of the DS9 sets where they had ops, and I'd always wanted to see the promenade, and I just decided, obviously they're not going to be filming there. Although interestingly enough, I saw Mark Alimo, and he was doing some pickup scenes as Ducat, and it was kind of funny because he was wearing his Cardassian makeup, and it was just, and he was wearing like a t-shirt, and it was just kind of flapping. All this stuff was just kind of just like it was flapping like Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's really funny. But anyway, there was like they had just wrapped the day before, and I walked into the promenade. I just wanted to, to take a look at it, and everything was in boxes, and it was all dark, and like, started, a lot of the stuff was being taken down already. That big thing in Quarks was gone, and I was like, oh man. They did not wait at all to start striking that set, because it's
just straight away
they needed something else in there. That was and Voyager had already been set up across the way, so who knows what's in those sets. I think that was stage 19 and stage 4 is where DS9 was. But yeah, sets get struck really, really fast, and people, sometimes, people say to fan filmmakers, like, for example, Glenn Wolfe recently built the Botany Bay interior for No Good Deed. That's an interview I just did a couple weeks ago, and everybody wanted to shoot on the Botany Bay because it looked like the Botany Bay. And,
absolutely.
And he's like, that lasted for like a day, and it was being held together with like duct tape. That was gone. They called me a month later. He's like, oh yeah, that sets history.
Yeah, it's the sad thing of any set builder, production designer is, you put in so much work, and like our shuttlecraft, it lasted a weekend of filming, and then that was it. Had to be pulled down.
just now, and so just one weekend of filming there. So how long did you film overall then? Because you had a lot of.
So overall, we kind of did it in, I'd say, 4 3-day blocks, and the problem was, like I say, when we first started and we got the funds in, the first thing we did shoot was all the exterior shots. Didn't have to build any sets with that. We had the costumes, we had the props, so we went straight on with that. And then I kind of set to task on building the Romulan base set. That took a year on and off. Like I say, a lot longer than anticipated. The whole project was a learning curve in more ways than one for me. And then we literally brought in the actors for 2 weekends. I had all the Romulans for one scene for one weekend, then I got the ambush crew in for the next weekend, and we did that in 2 separate things. And because also as well, I was having to think about accommodation for everyone, and it was a case of dossing on my lounge floor in sleeping bags was pretty much the only accommodation I could provide. So I couldn't bring everyone all in at once, so we had to do lots of reverse shots and imagine they're there. And then for shuttlecraft, similar story. It took about a year on and off to fully build and realize, and then bring the ambush crew in for a weekend of shooting, and then that was it.
So if you crowdfunded in 2014, somewhere late spring, early summer of 2014. So it was a year from that point. Were you filming on 2015 then?
Yeah. So it was effectively all the exterior stuff was filmed 2014. The Romulan base was 2015, and then the shuttlecraft was 2016. Right.
Okay. Well, that leads me into a question that I wanted to ask you. I was going to ask you later on, but let's just, if we're talking about the shuttlecraft in 2016, there was an interesting scene in that I want to show people, just in case you haven't watched it yet, where you talk specifically about Garth.
Yeah.
Let's watch the scene.
What you reading?
History. Something Eugene recommended.
Garth of Izar, the 4 Years' War.
The last war of the Federation. What do you think? Was he insane? Mass murderer? Both?
No one really knows what happened to Garth.
Yeah, but we know where he started. He was a hero. An explorer, stepped up to become a soldier, and then fell to mockery and shame.
So when you released this, there was some debate on social media whether this little scene about Garth, which seems to be more about Alec Peters, who plays Garth. There are a lot of certain undertones in that. Whether that was a hit on Alec, or was it a hit on the people who didn't like Alec, or was it just a general social media commentary? And of course, you did actually thank Alec Peters at one point in your credits. So do you want to sort of clarify, what message?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of knew this would come with some a need for clarification. I think first, if I could just give you a little bit of context on my relationship with Alec Peters and kind of my involvement, which is really not much at all. When we initially started our Kickstarter, the only other Kickstarter that was up was Prelude to Axanar. And I don't think I'm alone in saying, I was completely blown away by what I was seeing. I was like, oh my God, this is on a whole nother level to what I want to, do. This is incredible. And so they were doing their Kickstarter. Similar time, I'd looked into lots of Star Trek fan film Kickstarters just for ideas on how do you market yourself as a Kickstarter. So I was kind of very much aware that, there's this thing called Prelude to Axanar. This is on a whole nother level. They've got actual Trek alumni in it. They've got amazing effects. That's it. They're the A game. Let's just not worry about them and just focus on my own little thing. And then it was like during my Kickstarter, Alec actually reached out to me, which I was very much surprised by. I thought, oh, I'm actually being noticed by him. And, he just wanted to have a chat. So, he was really excited by my pitch and thought, it was all good. And without me even saying anything, he publicized us. He shared us on the Axanar Facebook page. He just sort of boosted us on all the social media that they were using. And I remember that evening very well, because literally myself and my wife were just watching our Kickstarter after that. And pretty much overnight, it tripled. The pledges just tripled. And yeah, straight away, just from, I didn't ask him to do that, but he did that on, just being supportive. And the budget that we had was pretty much thanks to that. And that's pretty much, I sort of thanked him. Thanks, you didn't have to, but thanks for that. That's, that's a massive help. And then we sort of occasionally, just because of that, I would sort of just show him some updates, let him know what I was doing and get some, feedback. And, he would give his honest opinion on some stuff. And that was kind of that. I did meet him once. He came over to the UK. It was around 2015. I believe he came to the UK. Yeah, because I was just about to film the Romulan base stuff. And, he just came over to UK for an event, and I was able to meet up with him in London. And, there was a couple of other prominent fan filmmakers there as well. And, it just seemed like an all right guy. He was quite enthusiastic about what I was doing. Anyway, and then the Garth scene itself, when we built the shuttlecraft set, that was the set I was most excited by, and it was the set that I really wanted to show off as much as possible. And I was also aware that, so we kind of felt it would be nice if we could think of it, if we could put another scene in the film with our characters in the set, because we just want to show off as much of it as possible. What else could we do but is actually for the story? And I wanted to add a few more layers to the captain character, because we always wanted, there was a scene which we didn't get to film, where we kind of, it was a briefing scene where he gets his mission, and effectively we established that he's morally conflicted. He's kind of aware that he's almost doing the Federation's dirty work. He's not too happy about it. And, we're wondering, is there something else we can do just to add another layer to that aspect of his character? And of course, I thought of, well, actually, maybe we have him talk about Garth. And part of it was like a thank you, I will admit, it was like a little thank you. But part of it also felt the character was actually really relevant to what we wanted. I kind of liked the original series character of this captain who everyone absolutely loved, was heroic, and then goes insane. And I kind of felt it was actually, and we always played it as, the captain, it's like a cautionary tale. It's, this captain's worried about is he going to go insane? That kind of worked well with that. At the time, I did actually, I messaged Alec just to say, oh, this is what I'm thinking of doing. It wasn't necessarily like asking for a blessing or his permission, because at the end of the day, it's a character that, he doesn't own. But I just said, I just want to make sure that, because also at this time as well, this is sort of pre-lawsuit, pre-fallout, should we call it? There was talks of, this shared universe of fan films, and, everyone was kind of really enthusiastically talking about this, working together. And it was effectively, just what I'm thinking of doing. I just want to make sure it doesn't conflict with anything that you're wanting to do with a character. I sent him a copy of a script, and, he responded, oh, love it. Yeah, go for it. Do it. So that's kind of where we wrote the scene and put it in. The scene was it's been cut down. The full scene probably will be released at some point. There was a little bit more to it. We ended up we bring up Zephyr and Cochrane, we bring up Oppenheimer, and the Doctor character sort of brings up other figures in history. And basically the idea was let history decide their reputation, their fate. Let them make up their own minds on how these people are perceived. And then, of course, fast forward to now, or when I was, we're editing the film, and initially we tried an edit of the film without that scene at all. And if I'm honest, I was really like of two minds. Do I put it in? Do I not? And then I thought, well, actually, it does serve the characters in my film. It does serve. I really like the performances of Karen and Steve, the two actors playing those characters. And it was a scene we really liked. So I thought, yeah, let's put it in. I will be honest, I was extremely worried, because I did feel that people are people going to turn this off as soon as they see Garth, cut it. There was a couple of other fan film makers I sort of reached out to, and they got an advance preview of it, and I did say to them, what do you think? And they're like, well, you might upset some people, but I think it serves for story well, so it's your film, keep it. And then, like I said, we edited the scene slightly. It was effectively just to make it a little bit more ambiguous. I wasn't necessarily setting out to diss Alec or Garth. I wasn't setting out to praise them. I was kind of just like, let's let people make up their own minds of it. I am aware that some people have taken it as a full-blown me insulting and slagging off Alec. That's their interpretation. That's not my, I've got no massive intentions now of the scene. It's just, it is what it is. People can interpret it how they want. And that's kind of the thing there. And then the special thanks credit, which he did get, which interestingly enough, it seems to have caused more upset, I've noticed, than the actual Garth scene. That was effectively, he was supportive of my production. I'm well aware that he has become a polarizing figure and quite decisive now. But at the end of the day, he really did help my production. And as a human being, I thought, well, I do need to thank the guy. He did actually, and he has actually helped out a number of other productions, which, they've taken the decision to kind of almost hide that, but that's their decision. But my feeling was, well, I thanked him, because he helped me.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that Alec has become so polarizing, but it is what it is. I think the people who don't like Alec are never going to like Alec, and anybody they see as being on Alec's side is always going to be guilty by association. I think the people who like Alec are, going to stay on Alec's side, and they're just going to be, waiting for Axanar. And
I think what upsets me the most is I think it's almost become impossible to be impartial. You're either on that side or that side. You cannot just be Switzerland. You cannot be neutral. It just seems to be,
there is no neutral zone when it comes to Alec Peters.
There is no neutral zone. No. I keep trying to just be in the middle, but no, it's not possible.
but you know what? As I've learned myself, it's it only affects you as much as you let it affect you. I've mostly stopped talking about Alec on Fan Film Factor because I did my defending of him, and at this point I've said everything that I can possibly say to convince people, and there's just it's eternal argument, or I can get on with my life. So I'm getting on with my life. I don't write too much about Axanar at this point because there isn't too much to write about it until the next.
It is what it is. I mean,
shoot happens.
yeah. I mean, I for one, it was when the lawsuit happened. I said two things, which was one, I would do whatever Paramount say. If they tell me to shut down, I'll shut down. But because I also said in the same sentence, Alec helped me, that was taken as, I'm his protege, I'm his little minion. And even when I said further on, I'm retooling to adhere to the guidelines, everyone's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, well, no, because I said I was going to do that. Why is that interesting? It's, people will focus on one thing and just ignore the other. So
you know what? It's Star Trek fans. You can't make all the fans happy all the time. I'm currently writing. I mean, like literally, I was writing this morning, and I will continue to write after I finish this interview. My review of the most recent episode of Discovery, which when we're doing this is the penultimate episode of the season. And I am writing something where I say positive things about it, and I say negative things about it, because this episode, Species 10C, caused me, first of all, it was very intriguing, but it also caused me some frustration. And I realized that when I come out, people, and when I publish this, the people who like Discovery are going to say, well, you're just another Discovery hater. And the people who hate Discovery are going to be bashing me for saying nice things about it. And, fans will always find something to complain about. And, call balls and strikes, as we say in America. That's what I do, and with Axanar, it's the same thing. At this point, it's either going to get made or it's not going to get made. And I'm pretty sure it's going to get made, because I know that there's going to be a shoot now in May that's been paid for. And once all the footage is in the can, I know that Mark Edward Lewis is, ready to start editing it. And I've watched Mark work on my fan film Interlude, and I know that he is fast and he can do what he needs to do. And, it'll come out. And then will people be able to move past it? I don't know. Probably not. People who have been insulting Alec will talk about how it's so disappointing, that took so long and they spent $2 million on it. And this is all that we got. And that's very, what a letdown. And I think the people who like Alec are going to say, oh, this is, even better than Prelude, worth the wait.
People have already made up their minds on it.
So
it's a shame, but that's kind of what's become. What it's become.
Well, anyway, back to your fan film. So I wanted to ask you about your costumes really quick, because they're very unique, because you're talking about Garth. So in that way, it's sort of 23rd century, and yet you've got sort of this harkening back to 22nd century. So what was the thought process there?
Right. So in the original script, we're set in the original series. That was kind of always the plan. In the original script, it's in the screenplay where, as I describe each character's physical appearance, I always put, they're wearing the golden tunic, they're wearing the blue tunic. We had one character who was supposed to be an Andorian as well. So the script was purely fantasy. As for the costume change, so there was two kind of reasonings behind it. The first reason was kind of the nature of the script. We kind of got this strike team going in on this stealth mission. And it was my friend Tom who actually sort of said, well, if they're going into this stealth mission, why on earth would they wear bright colored, targeted, shoot me, please uniforms? So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe we could put a jacket on them just to, make them a bit more tactical. And then the second reason was simply because, in my opinion, recreating authentic looking original series uniforms is actually really difficult. And I think there are productions out there who've got it down to a T, and, fair play to them. I think that's what they've done. But I think as well, especially if you're having to use sort of stuff from, say, fancy dress shops, I just think it looks like it's come from a fancy dress shop. And my thinking was, if I cannot do something and pull it off realistically, then I just don't want it. I want to focus on something I can do realistically. So that then led me to think, okay, let me just redesign the uniforms and, you know, do my own thing. And we felt as well, because we were wanting the ambush crew to be they are in the Federation, but they're a completely separate part of the Federation. It's kind of like in a country's armed forces, you've got the Air Force, you've got the Navy, you've got the Army, you've got the Marines. They're all effectively work for the same government, but they're different sections. So my thinking was, okay, this is more of like a security, maybe if like the Makos from Enterprise sort of ended up becoming their own little thing within Starfleet, this could be which is why we took a lot of influence from Enterprise with the design of particularly the jackets. And I kind of felt like if there was a middle ground, you know, if we had 50 years after Enterprise, 50 years before the original series, this could be what the uniforms would have looked like across the board. And maybe they've just kept hold of the old uniforms. And that's why, because we wanted to bring in the idea of they're a relic from the past. That's kind of what the uniforms are. And then if I ever had a scene where they kind of got onto the bridge of the Enterprise, they would be mocked for, oh, you're wearing your daddy's uniform, is kind of the idea that we came about them. Like I said, we did initially, there was another scene we were going to film, but it just didn't happen, where they would be, it was going to be a briefing scene where they go to Starfleet HQ in San Francisco. And I actually originally was going to have them wearing the dress uniforms from the original series, because I felt they could actually be tailored, because that material was a bit more accessible than the Velar material from the original series. And they kind of, the idea was they wear that so they can blend in more with the rest of Starfleet. So that's kind of where the uniforms did come from.
I can tell you those dress uniforms can be expensive, though.
Yeah.
I know there's some personal experience, because when we do Interlude, we needed that uniform for Admiral Ramirez when he's in sick bay, and it was custom made by a fellow in Italy, and his dressmaker.
Wow, yeah.
You know, and I think, including shipping that uniform, which we ended up tearing apart and, you know, covering with blood stains and everything.
So, for when he's in the on sick bay.
Yeah, when Ramirez is wounded. Anyway, I think with shipping, that was like $550 labor and shipping. You see it on screen for like, I don't know, 15 seconds.
Well, we ended up, when we were doing the Romulans, because, you know, if in an ideal world, I would have had them looking exactly like they do in Balance of Terror and the Enterprise incident. You know, it's more like a woolly, thicker material. I kind of did the best I could, but no, we ended up spending almost £500 on the helmet, which was specially made from the States. And again, I was, even at that point, I was looking at alternatives. You know, could I make something a bit more low tech? And in the end, we're kind of like, we need to put this in the budget, you know, because yeah. So I appreciate, you spent a lot on that friggin' helmet.
Well, if I recall correctly, the original idea of the helmet in Star Trek, when we saw it in Balance of Terror, was simply as a cost saving thing, so they didn't have to do additional ear makeup for those characters that wore it.
Ironically, ended up costing us more than doing ear makeup.
All right, and now the moment we have all been waiting for, and when I say waiting, I mean 8 years. What took so long? You finished filming and everything in 2016. What happened?
Yeah. So what happened? The easiest way I can describe it, it's all on me. To be completely blunt, I had what best could be described as a mental breakdown. Something happened in my life and it just caused me to go into this metaphorical dark hole. And I just lost interest in everything. And then also as well, it kind of, that sort of actually happened similar time to the lawsuit, I guess, should we say, and the guidelines. And all this toxic fandom kind of erupted. And like I said earlier, I found myself the subject of, you know, a couple of rants on various Facebook groups, and I ended up I didn't want that. You know, I was literally, it was affecting me mentally, and I just needed to get away from everything.
Wait, people were ranting at you back in 2016?
Yeah.
What did you do in 2016? Nobody, I don't think people knew who you were yet.
No, I was mentioned as supporting Alec, and that just you know, and I even found myself Ambush was even the subject of you know, those videos on YouTube of the Hitler rant, you know, where they take the clip from Bruno Gantz from Downfall and they put the subtitles in. And, you know, we had Ambush was mentioned as, you know, he did it as like, it was his Alec ranted, and Ambush was mentioned, oh, the only film which is supporting me is Ambush and no one's even heard of them. And I'm just like, you know, this is a film, my mum's making us costumes and my friends are just, you know, we're just trying to have some fun, and I'm now in a Hitler rant video. In hindsight, you know, I should be flattered that they even thought to put us in. But like I said, I had a lot going on in my life, and that was just something I really did not need. And I just shut myself away from everything. And it got to the point where anything to do with Star Trek was just, you know, a bitter reminder. Ambush did become like a little taboo subject. I would meet up with my friend Tom, and it always became this unwritten rule of don't bring up Ambush. We'll talk about Discovery. We'll talk about, you know, I think Star Trek Beyond came out as well in that sort of time frame, and it's like, well, you know, we can talk about
Bruno.
But yeah, just don't bring it up. And you know, yeah, this went on for about 5 years, and slowly, you know, definitely the best wife in the world, best family, best friends, they slowly were able to get me to come out of my metaphorical dark hole, and I finally got back. And then it was I don't want to use COVID as an excuse, but it did kind of play a little part of it. So
just go ahead and use COVID as an excuse.
Everyone else is. Why don't I?
Yeah. No one's going to question it. Just blame COVID.
I remember specifically it was February of 2020. I sort of met up with my friend Tom and said, you know, let's actually get this film sorted. And then COVID happened in March. You know, the UK went into lockdown. I'm not too sure when. Yeah, you probably experienced something similar. Everyone kind of bunkered down. I'm a paramedic. I was working all through the pandemic, and it was basically, I'd get home and all I'd want to do is just collapse in front of YouTube, or, you know, just watch something. And again, I was just, you know, all this does is mostly. Anyway, it got to a point where I was very much aware that this film was taking way too long. People had basically forgotten it had ever existed in the first place. And then it was probably the late summer of last year, I kind of sat down, and because by this point, I won't lie, tears had been shed on it. You know, I was just like, I always looked upon it as this big failure of my life. And then it said last summer, I sort of sat down with my friend Tom and said, right, we need to do something with this. And like I said, initially, there was still one more scene we had to film. And I think we agreed pretty much early on that we can't get cameras rolling on this again. If anything, because the technology that we used back then was now out of date. You know, the cameras were just no longer up to it. The idea of getting us all to look the same again was just like, it's going to be too much of a hassle. And then at one point, I sort of said, well, why don't we just release the scenes that we've cut, and maybe I'll do like almost like a drama documentary, and we'll fill in the gaps with storyboards or, you know, a bit of narration. And then it was actually Tom who sort of said, well, I'll tell you what, because I keep talking about Tom, his professional experiences, he's an editor and does visual effects. So he sort of said, I'll tell you what, we'll just take all the footage, see what we've got, and we'll just edit it into something, basically. And it turned out that pretty much all the footage we had was all the action scenes. So it was kind of like, you know, if this has to be an all-out action film, it's going to be an all-out action film, and that's kind of pretty much what we did. So yeah, 8 years, I guess, is going to be down as the runtime. I prefer to if we take away 5 years, I prefer to think of it as 3 years it took us, but no, 8 years is it's what it is.
I do have I do have a little message for you. You might remember I told you that my previous Zoom interview was with Glenn Wolfe of the Federation Files, and I was mentioning that you were going to be my next interview, and he said, "Oh, ambush." Said I was pretty. I think the word he used was persistent, or perhaps a little bit more.
He was one of the
yeah.
yes. So Glenn was one of our high backers. We had, and I felt bad. There was Glenn and a chap called Sean, and both of them gave a significant amount to Ambush. And yeah, Glenn was because he, again, bless him, he was offering to, what can I do to help? Is there anything I can do?
He is sort of the savior of unfinished fan films. I don't know, because he did that with the with Star Trek Equinox. He made it into the Equinox Effect. He took Friends and Foes, which was an unfinished thing. There were a couple others. I mean, he's basically all the, and I think he was also going to be a part of, and is still going to try to be a part of, Star Trek Tormented Destiny. Which is Richard Hatch's last film, and trying to make sure that one gets finished. So Glenn said, I think he said I was pestering, I don't know, about maybe once a month, once every 2 months. Can I help you finish? What can we do to help?
That's pretty much on. Yeah, that's what he was. It was like, so yeah, that's what. I think the problem I had as well, being in the UK, is I appreciate now lots of people kind of do remote working. It's not something which I'm kind of like that Hamilton song. I kind of need to be in the room when it happens, and that was kind of where my problem is I like to just be able to sit in the editing suite and see it come to life, and there. But yeah, like Glenn was definitely, bless him, he was very much offering to help, and it was getting to the point
people where, people want you to succeed. I mean, I hate to harp on the haters, but the haters only have the power that you give them. And if you put all of that attention that you give to the haters on the people who are actually supporting you, that can be just as powerful. I think people forget that they can do that, to actually say, look, I'm actually going to pay attention to these positive people and take energy from it. And eventually you just have to say, look, I do not give you my permission. You can say whatever you want. I choose not to hear you. So, you do have a lot of people, even now, who, saw your fan film, loved it. I loved it. I think you did a great job, even though it was not exactly what you had intended. It was, there's certain scenes that I'm sure you wanted in there.
No, and I have to say as well, I'm proud of what we've done, and quite just before it was being released, I set up a little private Facebook chat group with all the cast and crew. Again, some of them had forgotten I was even around. It's like, hi, remember me? And and everyone was just like, oh, no, we didn't need those scenes. No, it's great. That's it's a consistent story. We didn't need that. We didn't need that. No, I think it's better as it is. And so it's generally speaking, the general feedback seems to be that it's good. So I'm happy with that.
So yay, tick it off. One last thing on your bucket list. It's done.
Yep. So I have my Star Trek film done.
You have your start. Now, Samuel Cockings said to me after I was still working on Interlude, he said, so what's your next fan film going to be? And I said, for God's sakes, let me finish this one. But, I said, can I just be one and done? And he's like, oh, no, that's what they all say. And then they go and make another one. At this point, are you going to simply be the paramedic, or are you going to tackle another Star Trek fan film at some point?
It's why I have to say there more than likely will not be a sequel to Ambush. It had loads of, yes, we did end on a cliffhanger. I wrote that back in 2014 when I thought that it was going to be as easy as it looked to everyone else. Yes,
never that easy, folks. It's never that easy as it looks.
Like I said, this has been a massive learning curve for me. I have ideas. I mean, who wouldn't kind of dream up? I know what happens in my head to the Ambush crew, and I know how the story pans out in my head. It's kind of also the thing where I would like the story to continue, but maybe in another art form. This is an open call. If anyone's got any ideas, come to me. It'd be nice if I could continue for it. I've also got an idea for another Star Trek fan film, which has got nothing to do with Ambush. That's kind of the thing. Also, as well, part of me, I don't want to keep harking back to the guidelines, but should we be doing sequels? I believe it is one of their guidelines. The bottom line is, though, I mean, the amount of work that we had with Ambush logistically, it's not possible, really, I'm afraid. So sorry to say it. I mean, we were very fortunate to have use of effectively an empty warehouse. That's no longer the case. That's been used by another company. So that won't be happening. My idea for another film involves a set. So again, yeah. So
well, if you need sets, you can always fly to America.
You don't realize
we got more sets than we know what to do with.
You have any idea how envious I get when I see those sets?
Well, I will tell you something. For me, I still have not been to Kingsland, Georgia. At some point, I would love to go. Obviously, I've been to Ares Studios, but all of the TOS sets, I've not been up to James Colley because I'm in California. We've got a continent between me and those sets. You just have a pond. And you have the short trip,
Yeah, we are there on the east. Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it is really amazing that we have those sets to work with. It's an incredible blessing for Star Trek fan.
And actually, it's kind of partly the way Ambush sort of is the way it is with the story, because we knew from the word go we did not have the space to build a bridge of a starship. That was quite obvious, and that's pretty much why they go in on a shuttlecraft, because I knew that I want to build something Federation related. The only thing I've actually got the space to build is a shuttlecraft. And that's kind of same with the Romulan base. It was a lot of it is so dark because we used a lot of black paint to hide up how small the space was. That's pretty much even like the action scene. I don't know if you remember the old sitcom Police Squad or The Naked Gun. I think they've got the gag where two people are shooting each other, and it turns out there's only like a crate separating them. That is actually, if a camera's pulled back on our phaser fight, that's what it would look like.
Yeah, you know what? And that's done in a whole bunch of different fan films. The Aaron Vanderklee in Australia. His stuff. He does so much with so little. His stuff was filmed in basically the equivalent of a garage. Your countryman Leo Tierney, when he did,
I've seen,
Deception, Star Trek Deception.
Yep.
You take this little tiny, and that was like a 1-car garage, and he turned that thing into the bridge of the Excelsior and to a Klingon ship, and and then there's Samuel Cockings, and he's done amazing things with his 3D backgrounds, his virtual backgrounds. So, there are potentially ways to do it without building yourself a full set. But hey, if you never make another fan film, you've made a fan film, and I say this on blogs, and I say this in interviews. Most fans never make a fan film. 99% of fans will never make a fan film.
Yeah.
So enjoy that. Don't listen to the haters. You made a fan film, dude. Hey, aplausos.
Thank you.
Aplausos. All righty. Well, I do want to thank you for your time today.
No worries at all.
Later there in the UK than it is for me. It's a Friday morning for me, and it's a Friday evening for you. So you can go out and have fun. Go to the pub, have a pint.
The night's still young for us. Yep.
All righty. Well, thank you again. And if you do ever make another fan film, let me know. We'll have you on again.
I will. Okay? Of course I will. Thank you again. Thank you.
Take care.